Beverly Hills 90210 wasn't just a TV show. It shaped a generation and hid some of Hollywood's most tragic stories. Behind the iconic fashion, teen drama, and sun-soaked scenes were real people facing heartbreak, illness, and loss. Today, we remember the stars who made 90210 unforgettable and the painful endings few ever saw coming. If any of these stories touched you, give this video a like and share your thoughts in the comments. Luke Perry played Dylan McKay, the brooding bad boy with a tragic past and irresistible charm. He was the quiet rebel every teen wanted to be or be with. But behind the smoldering looks and motorcycle swagger was an actor whose real life was filled with grit, humility, and a devastating final act that no one saw coming. Born in Mansfield, Ohio in 1966, Luke grew up in a modest working-class family. His father was a steelworker, and after his parents' divorce, young Luke learned resilience early. He didn't grow up anywhere near the spotlight. He had to fight for every inch. In the early 80s, he moved to Los Angeles with nothing but a dream. He paved roads, hauled furniture, and did whatever it took to afford acting classes. He was rejected nearly 250 times before finally landing a role on 90210. But when Dylan McKay hit the screen, he became an overnight sensation and a cultural icon. At the peak of fame, Luke walked away from the party scene and instead built a quiet life. He raised his two children with devotion and chose meaningful roles that reflected his depth, like Fred Andrews on Riverdale. Just when a new chapter in his career was unfolding, fate intervened. On February 27, 2019, Luke suffered a massive stroke at home. The news hit like a punch to the gut. It was sudden, cruel, incomprehensible. Fans across the globe held their breath, hoping for a miracle. But on March 4th, just 5 days later, Luke passed away at only 52. It didn't feel real. For many, it felt like a piece of their youth had died too. Luke Perry wasn't just a teen idol. He was the kind of man who showed up early, knew every crew member's name, and lifted others without seeking credit. His legacy lives on not just in reruns, but in the quiet integrity he carried to his very last day. Shannon Doherty played Brenda Walsh, the bold, fearless twin whose sharp tongue and raw honesty made her unforgettable. Brenda didn't play nice, she was real. And Shannon, in many ways, lived just like that, unapologetically herself. Born in Memphis, Tennessee in 1971, Shannon started acting before she hit her teens. Fame came early, and so did the headlines. Off-screen, she clashed with producers, co-stars, and the press. The media branded her difficult. But beneath the noise was a woman who simply refused to stay quiet. She left 90,210 in season 4, but Shannon's fire never went out. She kept working, kept evolving. But her greatest battle had nothing to do with scripts or sets. In 2015, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. At first, fans hoped for a quick recovery, but the cancer came back, harder, it spread. And Shannon chose to let the world in. She posted through the pain, showed her shaved head, her chemo, her tears. There were days she could barely speak, but she still found a way to comfort others. She didn't just fight cancer, she exposed its cruel truth with a strength few could fathom. In her final year, Shannon knew the end was coming, but she faced it with open eyes and an open heart. On July 13, 2024, the world lost more than an actress. We lost a woman who lived on her terms, suffered publicly so others wouldn't feel alone, and turned her final breath into a message of courage. For those who followed her journey, the news hit like a punch to the chest. She wasn't just a TV star, she was a fighter, a voice, a sister in the struggle, and when she left, it felt deeply personal. Brenda Walsh was iconic, but Shannon Doherty, she was a force of nature, bold in life, brave in death, and unforgettable in every sense of the word. David Gail played Stuart Carson, the charming fiancé of Brenda Walsh, who swept her off her feet and almost changed her life. His time on 90210 was brief, but his character left a mark. And so did David, even if the spotlight never quite stayed on him. Born in Tampa, Florida in 1965, David came from a supportive family and had dreams beyond the ordinary. He started out in theater before transitioning to television in the early 90s. For many fans, 90210 was where they first saw him, but it wasn't his only role. David also starred in soap operas like Port Charles and guest appearances across primetime TV. Despite his talent and good looks, David never quite broke into the A-list. The fame was fleeting, and as years went by, his screen time faded. But David didn't chase stardom. He lived quietly, away from the noise of Hollywood, keeping close to his loved ones and staying grounded. In January 2024, news broke that David had died suddenly from a heart attack, complicated by medication-related issues. He was only 58. The announcement stunned many, fans who hadn't seen his name in years but still remembered his smile, his voice, his quiet charm. David Gale's passing wasn't front-page news, but for those who grew up watching 90210, it was personal. It reminded us that even brief moments on screen can leave lasting memories, and that behind every face we remember is a life we often never truly knew. Denise Dows played Vice Principal Priestley, the no-nonsense school administrator with a calm voice, sharp eyes, and a heart that quietly rooted for her students. She wasn't flashy or dramatic, but she was a constant. In a show filled with chaos and teen drama, Ms. Priestley was the anchor. Born in Honolulu, Hawaii in 1958, Denise was raised in a military family. Discipline and dignity were part of her DNA. She began acting in the late 80s and built a steady, respected career, never chasing the spotlight, but always showing up with poise and power. Her role in 90210 wasn't just a background character. Ms. Priestley represented something rare on TV at the time, a black woman in a position of authority portrayed with integrity. Denise brought warmth, wisdom, and quiet strength to every scene. Fans remember her not just for what she said, but how she made them feel. Beyond 90210, she worked across dozens of hit shows, from Insecure to The Guardian, and became a familiar face to anyone who watched TV in the 90s and 2000s. Then in August 2022, everything changed in the blink of an eye. Denise was suddenly hospitalized after falling ill with acute meningitis, a vicious illness that offered no warning, no time to prepare. Within days, she slipped into a coma. The woman who had always seemed steady, composed, untouchable, was now fighting for her life. Friends and fans clung to hope, but the updates were few, and then came the silence. Denise passed away just days later, at the age of 64. No farewell, no final message, just the quiet shock of loss, followed by a wave of grief that swept through everyone who had ever watched her work. Her death felt unreal. One moment she was part of the background music of our lives, and the next she was gone. Sudden losses hit the hardest, and this one left a deep, aching void. For many, her death felt deeply personal. Denise Dows had been part of their living rooms, their youth, their comfort shows. And when she left, it felt like losing a quiet, steady presence we never thought would be gone. Joey Tata played Nat, the friendly owner of the Peach Pit, the cozy diner where the 90210 gang always came to eat, talk, laugh, and heal. He wasn't just a background character, he was the heart of the community. Nat was steady, warm, and always there when someone needed a bit of real-world advice and a plate of fries. Born in the Bronx, New York in 1936, Joe was a true old-school actor. He came up in the golden days of television, landing parts in shows like Batman, The Rockford Files, and Hill Street Blues. But it was 90210 that brought him into the hearts of a new generation. Behind the scenes, Joe was exactly who you'd hope he'd be, kind, gracious, and beloved by cast and crew alike. He didn't need the spotlight. He just loved acting, and he loved people. In his later years, Joe faced one of life's cruelest challenges, Alzheimer's disease. As time passed, his memory began to fade. Eventually, he no longer recognized longtime friends or even his own past roles. The man who had once been everyone's favorite TV uncle was slowly slipping away. Joey Tata passed away on August 24, 2022, at the age of 85. The news hit hard for 90210 fans. His character had been a symbol of comfort and kindness, and now he was gone. His loss wasn't just about an actor, it was about losing a part of the show's soul. The Peach Pit may have been fictional, but the warmth Joe brought to it was real. And for anyone who grew up watching Beverly Hills 90210, losing Nat felt like losing home. Jed Allen played Rush Sanders, the strong-willed, often overbearing father of Steve Sanders. He was sharp-tongued, ambitious, and full of tough love. But beneath the strict businessman exterior, Rush was a father who, deep down, wanted the best for his son, even if he didn't always know how to show it. Born in New York City in 1935, Jed Allen had the kind of voice and presence that seemed tailor-made for television. He started out in theater before transitioning to daytime dramas and primetime TV. He became a household name through shows like Days of Our Lives, Santa Barbara, and of course Beverly Hills 90210. Jed wasn't just a familiar face, he was a true soap opera legend. Over the decades, he played lawyers, lovers, fathers, and villains with the same magnetic presence. He had that rare ability to make even the most dramatic dialogue feel grounded and real. Off-screen, Jed was warm, devoted to his family, and deeply respected in the industry. His fans spanned generations, and his colleagues described him as generous, professional, and full of life. In a twist so cruel it felt scripted by fate itself, Jed Allen passed away on March 9, 2019, just 5 days after the sudden, shocking death of his 90210 co-star Luke Perry. The news hit like a second wave of grief before fans had even begun to process the first. It was almost too much to take. Two beloved men from the same show gone within the same week. One was the steady father figure, the other the tragic heartthrob. Different roles, different energies, but both essential to what made 90210 unforgettable. To lose them both in such a short span of time was like watching your childhood crack at the seams. It didn't feel real, it felt cruel. As if the show that once defined youth was suddenly reminding us of time's sharp edge. Jed Allen was 84 when he passed, and while time may have taken him from us, his legacy, like his roles, was built to last. Caroline McWilliams played Luann Pruitt, the tough, no-nonsense mother of Ray whose presence, though brief, was unforgettable. She brought grit, tension, and raw energy to 90210, reminding viewers that not every parent in Beverly Hills was polished and picture-perfect. Born in Seattle, Washington in 1945, Caroline was a classically trained actress who built her career on stage before transitioning to television. She rose to fame in the 70s and 80s with standout roles in Soap, Benson, and Guiding Light. She wasn't a flashy celebrity. She was a working actress, respected by peers, loved by fans. On-screen, Caroline had a gift for portraying complicated women. Off-screen, she was described as warm, intelligent, and deeply grounded. She was married to actor Michael Keaton, with whom she had a son, and although they later divorced, they remained close as co-parents. In her final years, Caroline faced a devastating battle with multiple myeloma, a rare, excruciating cancer that attacks the bone marrow. As the illness progressed, her strength never wavered, even as the pain grew more unbearable. She faced it all with quiet dignity, far from the spotlight she once lit up. When she passed in 2010 at just 64, the world barely noticed. There were no headlines, no Hollywood tributes. She slipped away quietly, as if the industry had moved on, but her fans never did. For those who remembered her brilliance, the loss was deep and personal. Caroline McWilliams may have only brushed the world of 90210, but she left behind something far more lasting, a legacy of strength, grace, and the kind of quiet talent that never fades. Nicholas Pryor played Principal Arnold, the calm, collected leader of California University, who brought wisdom and a quiet sense of order to 90210. While his role came later in the series, his steady presence became a welcome contrast to the chaos of college life. Born in 1935 in Baltimore, Maryland, Nicholas Pryor was a seasoned actor long before 90210. He trained at Yale, appeared in Broadway productions, and built a career that spanned more than 5 decades. With his soft-spoken style and dignified demeanor, he was often cast as professors, doctors, and gentle authority figures. You may not always remember the character's name, but you remembered his face and voice. As Principal Arnold, he gave the show a sense of maturity and grace. He didn't yell, he didn't judge, he listened, he guided. And in doing so, he represented the kind of educator we all wish we'd had. Off-screen, Nicholas lived a quiet, private life. He was never one for celebrity or spectacle. He simply loved the craft of acting and did it with quiet excellence. In 2024, Nicholas Pryor passed away at the age of 89. His death was peaceful but still left a soft sadness for fans who had grown up seeing him as a wise, steady force on their screens. He didn't make headlines, but he made a difference. Nicholas Pryor may not have been the loudest voice on 90210, but he was one of its most grounding. And for those who paid attention, he reminded us that strength doesn't always need to shout. Jason Priestley played Brandon Walsh, the clean-cut, all-American good guy who was always trying to do the right thing. With his moral compass, boyish charm, and earnest smile, Brandon became the heart of 90210. He wasn't the flashiest character, but he was the one who held everything together. Born in Vancouver, Canada in 1969, Jason started acting in commercials and local productions before heading to the U.S. His big break came in 1990, when he was cast as Brandon at just 20 years old. Almost overnight, he became a teen idol, his posters plastered on walls, his face on every magazine cover. But Jason wasn't just a pretty face. While 90210 made him famous, he pushed himself behind the scenes too, directing episodes, producing, and shaping the show's tone in later seasons. After 90,210, he starred in True Calling, Call Me Fitz, and Private Eyes, proving he had staying power far beyond the teen drama that launched him. Off-screen, Jason's life nearly ended in an instant. In 2002, during a high-speed race at the Kentucky Speedway, his car slammed into a wall at nearly 180 miles per hour. The impact was brutal. He suffered a severe concussion, multiple fractures, and a broken back. For a moment, it wasn't clear if he'd survive, let alone walk again. The crash didn't just break bones, it shattered illusions. Fame couldn't protect him, strength couldn't save him. For the first time, the man who played the most stable character on TV had to rebuild himself, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Jason spent months in grueling rehab, learning to walk again. The pain was constant, the fear was real. But he didn't give up. That accident changed him. It made him slower to chase the spotlight, quicker to value quiet moments, and deeply aware of how fragile life can be. Now he's a father of 2, a seasoned actor and director, and a man who's made peace with his fame. He doesn't chase the spotlight anymore, but when he speaks, fans still listen. Brandon Walsh might have been the golden boy of 90210, but Jason Priestley? He's the grown-up version, wiser, steadier, and still quietly leading by example. Jenny Garth played Kelly Taylor, the blonde bombshell with layers far deeper than her looks. At first, she was the classic high school queen bee, beautiful, confident, and always in the center of drama. But as 90210 unfolded, Kelly became one of the show's most complex and beloved characters, struggling with addiction, heartbreak, and identity. She wasn't just popular, she was real. Born in Urbana, Illinois in 1972, Jenny was the youngest of 7 siblings. She grew up in a modest household and moved to California as a teenager to chase her dreams. It didn't take long. By 18, she landed the role of Kelly Taylor, and her life changed overnight. Jenny's portrayal of Kelly made her a 90s icon. And while the fame came fast and loud, she handled it with grace. After 90,210, she stayed in the spotlight with roles in What I Like About You, Mystery Girls, and Reality, shows that let fans see her down-to-earth personality. Off-screen, Jenny's life hasn't been the glossy picture many imagined. She has spoken openly, sometimes with tears in her eyes, about battling anxiety that left her breathless, scared, and doubting herself. She's gone through not one but 3 painful divorces, each one leaving emotional scars beneath the surface of her smile. Raising 3 daughters as a single mom wasn't easy, especially under the harsh glare of public attention. There were moments when she felt overwhelmed, judged, and stretched to her emotional limits. But Jenny never pretended. She didn't hide behind fame. Instead, she let people see the cracks, the struggles, and the strength that came from surviving them. Today, she's still acting, still smiling, and still inspiring fans who grew up with her. Whether she's on a podcast, walking the red carpet, or just posting photos from her garden, Jenny Garth continues to shine in her own genuine way. Beverly Hills 90210 wasn't just a show, it was a shared memory, a part of growing up for millions. And behind the fame, the fashion, and the drama were real people with real struggles, real triumphs, and sometimes real heartbreak. Some are no longer with us, others continue to inspire. But together they made 90,210 unforgettable. If this journey brought back memories, hit that like button and share your favorite cast member in the comments. We'd love to hear your story.